For an episode that looked like a simple case of the week, NCIS Season 23, Episode 15 quietly dropped one of the biggest long-term reveals of the entire series, and most people completely missed it, because this wasn't really about the case. This was about the future of NCIS. Let's start with the obvious shift happening right now. After the death of Leon Vance, the entire foundation of NCIS is unstable, and the show isn't rushing to fix it, which is exactly why this storyline feels more real than ever. They're letting the silence sit. They're letting the absence matter. But underneath that, the writers are already moving pieces into place. And the biggest piece? Timothy McGee. Here's what a lot of casual viewers don't realize. McGee becoming director isn't a sudden idea. It's something the show has been quietly building for years. From the moment he stopped being the probie to becoming the team's most reliable thinker, to applying for deputy director last season, that wasn't random. That was set up. And then came the moment that changes everything, the 500th episode, when Vance, in what is basically his final philosophical statement, says, "McGee is destined to lead." That line wasn't emotional filler. That was a narrative confirmation. But here's where episode 15 gets really interesting, because if McGee is moving up, someone has to replace him, and this is where Curtis Hubley comes in. On the surface, Curtis just looks like a temporary fill-in. Casey's gone, he steps into the lab, does his job, nothing crazy. But if you really pay attention, this episode is basically a soft launch for him. Think about it. He's not just doing tech work, he's showing confidence in the lab. He's interacting more naturally with the team, and most importantly, he fits. That's something NCIS doesn't fake. When a character clicks with the team like that, it's usually intentional. And here's the deeper connection most people missed. Curtis is basically a mirror of early McGee. Awkward, highly technical, still finding his place. That's not a coincidence. That's parallel storytelling. The show is subtly recreating the same dynamic, just with a new generation. Now here's where the theory goes even deeper, because replacing McGee isn't just about skill, it's about role balance inside the team. If McGee becomes director, the team loses something critical, that bridge between fieldwork and intelligence. McGee isn't just an agent, he's the brain behind half the solves. So whoever replaces him has to bring that same energy. And Curtis? He's literally the only current character positioned to do that. But here's the twist. This doesn't mean McGee becomes director immediately. In fact, the show is doing something smarter. They're building a transition arc because right now, Alden Parker is still holding things together. And that creates tension because Parker is qualified, experienced, and already acting as the leader. So now the show has two possible directions. Either Parker becomes the temporary director, or McGee slowly steps into it over time. And this is where fan theories explode, because there's a third option people aren't talking about enough. What if McGee doesn't take the job yet? What if the show delays it until the final seasons so that when it happens, it feels earned on a completely different level? Because if you really think about it, McGee becoming director isn't just a promotion, it's the final evolution of the original NCIS story, from Gibbs to Vance to McGee. That's not just leadership, that's legacy. And episode 15 quietly sets all of this in motion without ever saying it out loud. No dramatic speech, no big reveal, just character placement and subtle storytelling. So yeah, Curtis Hubley showing up again? That's not random. That's the show telling you we're preparing for what comes next. And if you missed it the first time, don't worry. That's exactly how NCIS wanted it.